Hey, what's up guys? So today's video, I'm going to go ahead and take the time and list out my 5 tips for beginner AD carries and what you can do to really see a lot of improvement if you're new at playing AD carry. So for tip number 1, this one's going to be a pretty common one that you'll see in other similar videos on how to improve at League of Legends. And for this one, it's going to be make sure your runes and your item builds are correct. And what I mean by that is make sure you're playing your champion the most optimal way that you can. The reason certain item builds and certain rune paths are meta is because it's set out by the people who play this game 12 plus hours a day. They are the ones who it's their job to play this game and to know what's best for each champion. So they're the ones who are going to find these new niche paths of building people, and when finding out a new rune is powerful, they're the ones who are going to find this. We're not going to be the ones who are going to test this out. A lot of us don't have as much time to play this game as the professional players. So for us to optimize our time playing, we need to go forth and play the strongest way that we can. And by doing that, it's probably going to be playing the meta runes and picking the strongest items for the champion we're playing, rather than trying to theory craft something on our own that might not be the most powerful. Now, this became a lot easier once they got rid of how masteries work, and this went with the new runes reforged system. It's a lot less choices that you have to make, so it's easier to have the most optimal runes, which is much easier for new players, especially now since you don't have to use IP to buy your runes. Everybody just gets their runes to make your page. And the best way to make sure you are using the best rune and item paths is to check and see what the professional players are doing. I like to use this website called probuilds.net. They are up to date with what the current professional players are playing in their solo queue games, the runes they're running, and the items they're building, and the order they build them in. There's other websites that are similar, do a similar thing. op.gg is another good one that you can use to find strong item builds, but I definitely recommend doing your research first before playing a champion in ranked. Copying professional players' builds and runes leads me into my next point here, and number 2 on the list, and that's going to be make sure we're watching professional players. And by watch professional players, I don't mean watch their stream in the background or kind of watch them because some of them might be funny and it's entertaining. Really watch what they're doing while they're playing. They are the people who play this game 10, 12, 14 hours a day for a majority of the year. So they are the ones that really know what they're doing when it comes to playing AD carry. To make sure that we are playing as best as we can, we want to try and copy what they're doing and how they're playing by watching them lane, by watching them in team fights, by watching their item builds, copying their runes like I mentioned before. And being a new AD carry player, there should be 3 things that you're paying close attention to while watching them. First, you're going to want to watch their laning phase and how they trade. Those kind of go hand in hand. A big part of playing AD carry and learning how to snowball comes from learning how to play your laning phase properly. Watching how these players play in specific matchups or against certain champions is a good way to teach us how we should also play the matchup. The second thing that you should be paying attention to when watching these players play is their positioning in team fights and how they play each fight. A big thing about playing AD carry, in my opinion, is having a lot of patience. You really need to find the right openings for you to be able to get into a fight and do damage safely. By watching how they approach the fight and how they space themselves away from other enemy champions is a huge part of being a good AD carry. They do it at a different level than anybody that you'll ever find in solo queue, which is why they're professional players. But we do want to try and copy their positioning to make sure that we are staying as safe as possible and doing the most damage at the same time. And the third thing that you should be trying to take away from watching these professional players play is their map movements. And a lot of that comes from just knowing the macro game better. You can watch LCS games and get a good grasp of how the macro game works. The announcers and commentators explain things very well, and you can really learn a lot from them. There's a lot that goes into being in the right place at the right time. It doesn't just happen coincidentally, and this is going to separate a good League of Legends player and a bad League of Legends player. And something that's really going to set you apart from other AD carry players, especially other new AD carry players if you're playing in low elo, is how well you farm. And number 3 on the list is going to be practice your farming. Being able to consistently farm 80 plus minions at the 10-minute mark is going to greatly improve how you impact the game. Think of a time where you really got stomped in lane and you had like 50 CS at the 10-minute mark and your enemy laner had like 75 CS at the 10-minute mark. There's a huge difference between 25 minions. A good way to put into perspective how important farming is if you have a 12 CS lead, that basically means you're up 1 kill worth of gold. The math works out to be, on average, one wave of CS, so 6 minions, is worth about 150 gold. And each champion kill by itself is usually worth around 300 gold. So if you have a CS lead of about 30 minions, that's about 2.5 kills that you're up on your opponent just by farming better than them. Being able to consistently farm well is going to make sure that you hit your item spikes in every game at a good timing, compared to if you really do get dumpstered on in lane, you're going to be absolutely useless for the rest of the game if you didn't farm well. So to get better at farming, what I recommend doing is going into the practice tool and farming by yourself for just 10 minutes at a time. Each time you go, try and set a goal for yourself. If you're not good at farming, try and set a goal of 60 minions at 10 minutes and then work your way up from there. The next time try 65 minions at 10 minutes and then 75 until you can get up to about 80-85 per 10 minutes. That's a good consistent goal that you want to try and meet. Now, playing in an actual game, it is a little dependent on the game state of how well you're going to CS. There are going to be some times where you can't hit 80 minions at 10 minutes because of, let's say, the matchup, or if there's a lot of jungle pressure in the bot lane, there's not much that you can do to really farm every single minion that comes into lane, and that's okay for that to happen. But if you're always getting your uncontested minions in lane, you're always going to have gold, which is most important on an AD carry. Now, another important mechanic that every AD carry should be able to do is going to be number 4 on the list, and that's going to be being able to kite efficiently. Now, essentially what kiting is moving while attacking. So you're putting distance between yourself and the enemy, or closing the gap between yourself and the enemy without having to take the full animation of your auto attack. There's a big difference between standing and auto attacking every single time and kiting and moving around while you're auto attacking. You make up a lot of extra ground, which can be the difference in majority of your fights, and also makes you more elusive to the enemy team. Now, kiting can seem a little mechanically complex to a new AD carry player or a new League of Legends player if you've never had to do this in any other MOBA before, but something that really helped me understand how to kite effectively is understanding that your auto attack is essentially on a cooldown, just like your other abilities. Every auto attack that you do, there is a brief moment where you can't auto attack again, and that's your cooldown. While our auto attack is on cooldown is when we want to be moving. So after we auto, there's about a half second to a second window, depending on your attack speed in the game, of when you can actually move around on the map. And it varies by champion because of their base attack speed, or if you build attack speed on the champion you're playing, and how much attack speed is the difference in the cooldown on your auto attack. So a lot of it does come with practice and knowing how long the cooldown is going to be for your auto attack, so you know how much time you have to move in between those auto attacks. And you're going to want to be moving your mouse between your move command to where you're trying to move and then back to the enemy. To do this a little bit easier, I recommend attack moving, and I don't want to go into too much detail on the specifics of attack moving and kiting because it can take quite some time here to go over it, and I do want to get into my last point. But if you do have some questions on how to kite better, definitely let me know in the comments, and I can try and make a video going a little bit further depth of how to kite better. So my last tip here that I have is something that I really haven't seen in any other League of Legends educational videos, and it's something that's very important, especially for an AD carry. And that last tip is understand how important your flash is and how to play when your flash is up as opposed to when your flash is down. Being an AD carry, your flash is one of your most important abilities that you have. On some champions, it's not as important, like Ezreal, for example, or Lucian, or champions that have an escape or a dash, but a lot of AD carries don't have that built into their kit, so they rely on their flash for their escape. And being an AD carry, you're going to have a lot of enemies diving for you in majority of team fights. Any assassins, any tanks, their main goal is to get to you and to kill you. So having our flash up is very, very crucial, especially in team fights, for us to be able to flash an ability and try and reposition to get into a better spot where we can deal our damage and survive. So playing with your flash on cooldown, you definitely need to be further back. You need to be behind your tanks if you have any. You do not need to be up trying to poke and get extra damage, because all it takes is one quick flash initiation from the enemy and you're dead, and now the fight's over basically. Now with our flash up, we can play a little bit more aggressive. We don't want to be careless because our flash is very important and we need to have a lot of summoner spell discipline with it. But with our flash up, that's our time to play more aggressive in these fights. Being able to reposition with your flash in the middle of a fight is very, very crucial for being able to put out the most damage possible. Now, I'm not saying don't ever use your flash aggressively because you want to save it for defense, or I'm not saying don't ever use your flash and always try and save it for the perfect moment, but try and have some discipline with it. I do see a lot of lower level players blowing their flash for nothing when they don't need to, because your flash is very important. And understanding that is going to make you a much better AD carry player. So that's everything that I have for you today, guys. That's my 5 tips for new beginner AD carry players. I hope some of this information does help you out going forward and you can see some improvements in your AD carry play. If you do want some more individualized one-on-one coaching, I'll go ahead and leave my email in the description. Go ahead and shoot me an email so we can set something up where I can look at some of your games. If you did make it this far in the video and did enjoy the content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really does mean a lot to me if you do. But until next time, good luck with your upcoming rank games.